So yeah, Hayden, thank you. Welcome to in 10 years time podcast where we interview up and coming athletes about how they motivate themselves, what they want to achieve in their careers in the sport, etc., etc. Yeah, like I start with everyone. I'll introduce you first. You're a 22-year-old, 22, right? That's right. Yeah. Centre for Harlequins and London Scottish at the moment, kind of. But yeah, played for England Sevens as well, and also Ireland under 20 international. So yeah, so you're born just down the road here, Kingston upon Thames. Did you have any like siblings in your family that were interested in sport? Anyone in your family that was interested in rugby?
Not really. My dad was a sprinter, so
Okay.
he didn't really have a clue what rugby was, and they still kind of don't. So rugby was more just sort of a thing that I picked up through school and club when I was younger.
Yeah. So what? And any siblings as well, or?
Well, I've got a sister, so she's not the most sporty in the world, but
okay.
she likes watching.
Right. Okay. Fair. And then we went to Cranley School.
Yeah.
That's like a private school. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Did you board there, or was it just like a day thing?
Yeah. So I joined in the sixth form. So I went to Tiffin, which is just down the road from here
okay.
first, and then joined in the sixth form. Boarded for those 2 years, which was an interesting experience.
Yeah, what was that like? Because I remember my granddad, he's up in Yorkshire, but he went to boarding school, and he always used to say how much he hated it. So like, did you hate it, like boarding there, or?
I did actually love it. I think it was weird at first, sort of going from just sort of doing normal state day school and getting into that, and the only real exposure I had to what a boarding school could be like is watching Harry Potter films and seeing how they get along there.
Right, yeah.
Turning up at this like massive school on the first day, and it literally looks exactly the same with these like huge dining halls and boarding houses and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But you get into it pretty quickly, and like everyone's actually really nice and welcoming.
So did you enjoy school then, like at Cranley or at that Tiffin school that you mentioned earlier?
Yeah, no, I absolutely loved it.
How did you, when you were at Cranley, like I've asked quite every one of my guests this, as a young person, obviously you've got to go to school and have the school life and stuff. So how did you balance like doing the whole rugby thing when you were in the Queen's Academy and then school? Like, do you find it easy? Like,
I think I probably had it easier than a lot of people would have, because like Cranley had quite a big connection with Quins, and we have like 3 boys at the time who were all going to Quins. We had trained on a Monday, so they take us and drop us off in the evening and then bring us back. Like the parents would just do it in shifts.
Yeah.
And so you have like Oscar Beard, Will Trenholme, Hugh Tizard as well, who was a year above us. Like we were all just taking it in shifts and dropping it off, and obviously it's school, so you can't really not do lessons and your homework and everything like that. Like it's quite easy to get into that routine.
Just out of interest, like what were you studying at Cranley, or was there anything apart from rugby that you were thinking of doing, or was it just always?
Yeah, so I wanted to study English at uni, so I was doing English, philosophy and history as my A-levels.
Right.
And I went to Queen's Belfast after sort of finishing sixth form when I went to join Ulster.
Oh, okay.
And I studied English there.
So, like an author or like a...
Nice. I do like writing.
Yeah, so do you do that? That's quite interesting. So do you do that like in your free time?
I'm actually writing a book.
Oh, nice. Yeah. What's it about? You don't have to say too much if you don't want to spoil it. But...
Yeah, I mean, it's not too amazing.
No, go on, don't be embarrassed. Go on.
The title's a work in process, but basically the idea is it's basically following this guy as he deals with these like different mental health struggles and stuff like that.
Nice.
Sort of, taking a lot from talking to people that I know, especially around sort of the sporting world and mates that I've got outside of it, and just sort of getting a different perspective on things. And it's basically all just pushed on this one bloke.
Right. Okay.
Trying to like explore. Yeah. Sort of the ideas of it, and from a more individual experience, and sort of just writing, this guy's a bit sad right now.
Oh, that's really interesting, because I know I forgot what his name, but he was a Dragons player. I think he was doing like an archaeological thing, like study or something in uni, because he's really interested in it as well. So it's good that you're still sticking to that. You mentioned it was like about mental health and stuff. Is it based on stuff around your mental health or people that you know of? Like,
I think it's a bit of both. I think obviously I went to Ulster, came back, and that a lot of the reason I moved back was based around the issues of being a bit homesick, not being too happy with where I was, personally. And then also from talking to a lot of other boys about how they feel about it, like being quite open with your friends and stuff, you realise that they're also going through sort of bad situations as well. And I think for me it was a bit of an eye-opener. I then got injured sort of the start of this year.
Yeah.
And I thought this is a good way to sort of start, I guess, processing how I'm feeling, how I felt in the past, and hopefully get other people to start talking about how they feel as well.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that's really good. So you did go to uni then to study. You did go to uni.
So I did 2 years and then dropped out, unfortunately.
Did you just drop out just because of the rugby? Like it was just too much?
It was a bit too much. Like,
yeah. Was it a 3-year course or was it?
It was a 3-year course, but had sort of planned to do a couple of years part time, but it just didn't really pan out that way.
Yeah. So did you feel like you missed out on like the quote unquote like uni life, like going out and making new friends and all that stuff? Because I spoke to Sadia Kabea. She's like England women's player. She plays for Loughborough, and she's like she always wanted to go to uni, and she's really determined to like finish a course and stuff as well as play rugby. So I just wanted to know if it's the same for you.
I didn't know you'd have any expectations going into uni about what uni life was going to be like.
Right.
Obviously, everyone thinks about the partying and all that. I live with 3 boys who are sub-academy contracted in Ireland, so you don't get paid. It's just sort of like you're asked to come in whenever you're needed.
Yeah.
And those 3 lads are all studying, and I kind of got the feel of what uni life was like through them, like living with 3 boys who were just living the uni life alongside doing their rugby.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, I got a taste of it, and obviously once you've done it a few times and gone out and experienced Freshers Week and all that, I kind of had my fair share and
nice
sort of dialed back a bit when I had to.
You mentioned that you obviously went to Belfast to do that, and also to play for Ulster. Did you just was it just a case of moving out of here in Kingston, just like experience like a new city, a new culture? Like, what was that? Was that the reason?
I think there were 2 sides to it. I think I grew up always wanting to play for Ireland, which was sort of something I'd had since I was about 4.
Yeah.
Like my whole family's from there, mum's from there, dad's cousins live next door to my mum, So,
right, okay.
Like, so that, being Irish was sort of my identity at that point in time, besides the accent, obviously.
Yeah.
That was one side of it. I loved the country and the rugby there. And the other side of it was I wanted to challenge myself in a completely new environment and kind of push myself to properly earn the right to play rugby. And it's like being in the comfort zone of, my family are down the road here, Quins is down the road. I've always played for Quins as in terms of like an academy setup. I just think I wanted to really push myself and personally feel like I earned it, if you know what I mean?
Yeah. I get you. Like a sense of like fulfillment, like kind of. So what was it like? So you told me why you moved there. What was it like living in Belfast compared to like here? Like, was it a bit of a culture shock? Obviously, I know you go there quite often anyway, but like...
Yeah, I mean, the culture was different because obviously it's Northern Ireland. It's not a republic.
Yeah.
So, your experience, they've obviously gone through some troubles in the recent years and stuff like that. And they are quite touchy around that sort of area. Not so much in people my age, but people older.
Yeah.
And, it's a lot more prevalent in sort of their kids and stuff like that. Like religion is such a big issue or like a big talking point around these guys. So I think that was a bit of a shock to me because no one really talks about religion too much around in England. Yeah. So that was a big thing. And the one thing that did help was obviously because it's part of the UK, all the road signs are the same. So you're not looking around at these like big blue ones that they have in Ireland. It's the exact same, like brown for tourist information, stuff like that. It's the little things that really help. And also it's all in pounds as well.
Nice, yeah, that definitely helps. Saves changing to euros. So why... Oh, obviously you mentioned like your mum's Irish. She's from like, when I looked, it was like Tallaght.
Yeah.
So, and that's like Dublin, is it?
Yeah,
all right.
It's Dublin. Yeah.
So was there a reason why you went to Belfast rather than Dublin? Was it just like a uni thing, or?
Yeah, so I'd spoken to sort of the IQ team that I was with, like Irish qualified, like they formerly the Exiles,
right?
And they sort of laid out this plan of like, these are the centres that are ahead of you, and you can go here, or here, but like we think this is the best fit for you.
Right.
So, because when you get contracted at Academy over in Ireland, you're just centrally contracted under the Irish Academy.
Right.
So you can kind of, you have a bit more choice of where to go.
Yeah.
You're probably not going to want to go Leinster because they've just got a ridiculously large academy and a very good one. So the chances of you coming through there is pretty slim. So they said like Ulster's probably the best fit. Like they don't really have that many out and out 13s, and you can kind of push to get a bit more of bit more of a chance there. I ended up playing 12 anyway, so it didn't matter too much in the grand scheme. But that was sort of like the idea around going there.
Obviously, you got like you're Irish, but you got like an English accent, and so when you went to Belfast and you talked about the recent troubles and all that stuff, did you feel, was there any point, because there was something the other day, wasn't there, with that guy and he went to the football to see his son train. Did that ever cross your mind at all? Like the more you lived there, like how did you feel, like fully safe and all that stuff?
Yeah, I felt fine out there. Like it was obviously like it's weird. You go into there and people start taking the pee out of your accent a little bit. Like you're there like this is kind of the norm for where I'm from, but everyone's there like, oh, some people call me Cockney, which is not even close. So it was interesting being not like a foreigner out there.
Yeah,
it was a new experience, to say the least.
Yeah. Apart from the sporting side of things, like with rugby, do you think it's like opened up any more horizons to you, like traveling wise? Because you've had to travel to play games and stuff. Like, or is there anything else in rugby apart from actually playing it that you feel that has benefited your life?
Oh, 100%. I think I spoke to my girlfriend about this the other day. It's like I didn't really grasp just how much I travelled as like part of my job. In terms of like I've been to South Africa this year. I went away to Malaga and Toulouse with the Sevens last year. Travelled to different parts of England which I probably wouldn't have gone to otherwise. It's like I've actually been able to see quite a bit of like not the world because I haven't really left Europe so far, but and I have South Africa. That was a silly comment, wasn't it?
Right.
Yeah, I've been able to see a lot more than I would have been able to if I was just working a 9 to 5 and sitting in an office and doing stuff like that. And it's nice. I'm pretty grateful for being able to do that.
Obviously, you recently signed a contract at Quins, and then obviously like on their page, like they tout you as like a really good prospect. I know when you came in here, you're a bit more, I don't know. Within yourself, not a bit more introverted about that. So I've asked everyone this as well, like as young people, like how do you respond to praise? Because quite often you might feel awkward. That's what a couple of people have said to me, like whenever a trainer or someone praises them in like the press or the media or whatever, they get a bit like awkward, a bit blushy and stuff. Is it like the same with you?
Yeah, I don't really like the praise too much. Yeah. It's I think being in the rugby world, you very quickly realise you weren't as good as you thought you were coming through sort of academy and stuff like that. And the first 2 years is definitely a bit of a shock to the system.
Yeah.
So I think you're still in that mindset of like you're just a young kid who doesn't really know much and you're still trying to learn.
Yeah.
So when you hear someone say like, oh, like, you think you're really good, you just feel like, I don't think I am. So yeah, I think this is why probably I'm a bit shy around people to like give me any sort of praise.
Yeah, because I used to. I mean, now I'm a bit different, I guess, but I used to be a bit like that as well. You get a little bit blushy and stuff when people say how good you are. And so you mentioned earlier, like your parents, like they didn't really know too much about rugby. Like your dad was a sprinter and stuff. I'm guessing that, and you said they still don't know much about rugby now, but I'm guessing they go to as many games as they can to go watch you play. How supportive have they been?
Oh, they've been amazing. I think like you don't really think about it too much when you're younger, and you think, oh, my parents is like, they've got to drop me here, drop me there. Like my dad, when I moved to Ulster, as well as my mum, like tried to come to every Saturday game I had when I was out there. Flew over for a day and would fly back, and like they were, they never really pushed me to do anything. Like they didn't have much clue of how the rugby world worked, and it was more just a fact of like, if you want to do it, just go and do it. They never pushed. They just went, if this makes you happy, then do it. And they've always been there just to sort of give me a helping hand.
So their reaction when you told them, or you found out like, oh, I'm actually going to be doing this like professionally now and stuff, they were like, yeah, go for it, like do it. Yeah, nice, that's excellent. Moving now into like the more rugby side of things. Obviously you played in the Harlequins academy until the under 18 level. Obviously Harlequins have produced like they've produced some of the best like talents, English talents like Marcus Smith, Joe Marchant, Sinclair. So after going through their academy like that, is there a reason? What is it about Harlequins academy that you think makes them produce so many?
I think a lot of it just comes down to the way we play. I think like we're quite well known for this sort of expansive, like open style of play, and that's fed in through the academy. I know slightly changed from when I left, but when I was coming through 16s to 18s, we didn't really have like much structure. It was literally like coaches going, see space, play, and boys just develop their ability to play rugby through that. I think just being able to just get a ball into space and figure it out for yourself pretty much.
Nice.
They've brought in the structure a little bit more because it makes the transition easier from ACAD to senior, where you know you're familiar with the sort of systems in place. But that same ideology is there. It's like if you want to play, then just go and play and express yourself. And I think that's why when people come through, like even if you're a prop or a second row, someone who's typically not known for being as flashy, these guys still have the base skill sets to be able to play unbelievably well.
Yeah, like Carl Sinclair. Like sometimes when I watch him play, I'm like, he's a prop, but he's like doing some sick, slick little passes.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. You then moved to Ulster. When you were like, how old were you when you moved to Ulster?
18.
Like 18. Yeah. Was it just purely? Obviously, I know you went there for uni and stuff, but was it also more so of like you said earlier, like you wanted to play for Ireland, like you wanted to play for an Irish team? Was it like more for rugby or more for?
Oh, it was all for rugby. Yeah. I think it literally, as we explained before, those are all the reasons. It's a bit rich to say that now, given that I've come crawling back to Quins, but that was the idea.
Nice. Obviously, I don't know if you know. Oh, you definitely know. But Sammy Arnold and Kieran Treadwell, they moved out to Ireland similarly, and they've both gone to play for Ireland. Was that also in the back of your mind when you went out there? Just obviously, like you said, you wanted to play for Ireland because like your identity, but also did you think, oh, I've actually got a really good chance to play international rugby, like a bit sooner than maybe I would have in England, perhaps?
Yeah, 100%. I think Sammy went to Cranley as well, so he had I'd had quite a lot of contact with him. He'd come in to train, and we've been speaking a lot. Like I spoke to him sort of the whole way through the sort of the contract situation with Ulster and Quinn. So he was always really supportive, and like having him as an example. Like I think the year that I signed was the year he made his Ireland debut. So like you have that in your mind, thinking like this is very possible, and like if you're going over, people don't really, as a IQ player, you don't really go over that often, and the ones that do well. So I think that was sort of the prime example of like me thinking like this is definitely a genuine possibility.
So did Sammy in particular, did he help you quite a lot then when you were out there? Not just when you started talking about the contract thing, but also like settling down in Ireland, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, obviously he was at Connacht at the time when I moved. Or was it,
I think
Munster first, yeah. So like I didn't have much like one-to-one contact, but I'd drop him a text every now and then just to sort of ask him a few questions and just get a better feel for how Belfast was. But he loved it there, and he was pretty encouraging of the place, so made it a bit easier to settle in. Yeah.
Obviously played for Ireland under 20s and under 19s or under 18s as well, didn't you? Yeah. Was it how, obviously, like you said, you mentioned that you've got an Irish identity and stuff, but obviously you got an English accent, and I know this might sound a bit weird, but like when you sing the Irish national anthem, what was that like? Did you feel proud? Was it like a bit of a strange feeling? Because obviously you've been brought up in England and stuff, like, and then you're singing the Irish national anthem, like how did you feel when you like?
Yeah, I mean, I still felt proud. Obviously, I hadn't grown up in the country, but like it's not just pride of the country itself, but also of like what you've done to get there.
Exactly.
Like, you're proud of yourself as much as you are of the nation you're representing. It is helped by the fact that it's not the actual national anthem you're singing. You're singing shoulder to shoulder.
Sure,
I wouldn't be able to do the Irish rendition of the national anthem, so it does help a little bit that it's in English.
Yeah. How does so you were there for a couple of years. How does the playing style out there when you're like at Ulster, and even when you're in the island like youth set up, like how does the styles compare, or the rugby culture there compared to here in England?
There's definitely some slight differences.
Okay. Tell them.
The Irish system, well, I can only really speak for the Ulster one, but it's so heavily based around their physicality and sort of like just
you can see that.
The idea of just beating the man in front of you and like clawing, like they had a phrase, fight for every inch, which was literally this idea of like every single opportunity you have to gain a few extra percent on the field, off the field, you're fighting for it, you're clawing for it. It was just such an intense system, and it was unreal for like developing your skills as a player, because you just have this mindset of like I'm constantly trying to get better, and then you play, you're like I'm constantly just trying to like gain these little extra percentages and stuff. And coming to Quins, I wouldn't say it's more relaxed, but it's definitely a bit more of a shift from that like ridiculously intense environment to this more of like one that's based around like enjoying the rugby with your friends and playing this like, I don't want to say this phrase too nicely, but this beautiful style of rugby.
Yeah.
You know, it's definitely a difference, and I think it's based more around the club's identity themselves, and it's just the sense that the 4 Irish teams have based their identities around
Ireland,
and
yeah.
similar, like, you know, it's all very similar to how the international team play, whereas Quins have a very individual Quins style of play, which now that Nick Evans has gone to England, it might seep
help
into the English system a little bit, but the Quins' way is very much the Quins' way.
And just out of interest, like, which way do you think works better? Do you think it works best for the country if you have 4 provinces all together, like you said, like Ulster, Leinster, Munster, and kind of all working together for the benefit of the Irish national team? Or do you think it's better like they do it in England, where it's like each club's? Because I guess it's got pros and cons on both sides.
I don't really think there's a way of saying one's better than the other. I think they just sort of work for whatever works best for the country. Like Ireland is a much smaller country.
Yeah,
I think 4 provinces is about right for you know, the place. So, and it works really well because, as you can see, the team's world number 1 and they're playing some amazing rugby at the minute.
Yeah.
So they've got a system that's, you know, figured out and they're doing really well. The English system is, you know, there's more teams. It's a much larger country. It's taking players from all over the place.
Yeah.
You know, we're making that work.
Yeah.
As best we can. Obviously, it's tougher because you've got to deal with more factors. And I think, you know, given that everything's moved around internationally a lot at the minute as well, like, it's just going to take a bit of time to settle in.
You mentioned earlier how you've always, when you're little, you always wanted to play for Ireland. Also because I found that they came to you when you were younger as well. They like interested in you and stuff. Last year at the Commonwealth Games, you played for England Sevens. So I just wanted to ask, like, I know it's a really hard question, and I appreciate it's difficult for you to answer, but do you know 100% yet which international team you want to represent yet, or are you still is it still really hard to
I still think it's a bit of a way away anyway, so I think I haven't got to worry about it just yet. I mean, given that I'm locked in for 3 years now, because the Sevens the Sevens has locked me in internationally, so I can't play for Ireland for the next 3 years unless I get residency anyway. Yeah. So if there was an international call up in the next 3 years, it would be England. And you're not going to say no to an international call up.
No, of course not.
I haven't really put too much thought into where, like, I actually want to play. I think it's more the fact of, like, if I can play internationally, I'm not going to say no to anyone.
And have you had, like, people from Ireland, people from England, like, behind the scenes, coming up to you saying, "Oh no, come play for us, don't play." Is it like that, or
nah. Not so much now that I've left. I think that initially when I was thinking about leaving, there was a little bit of like, "Oh, have you come play for Ireland Sevens?" And you know, it's just like, you know, you got the Olympics run up. I'd love to do that, and it's like, yeah, I would, but then at the same time, it would kind of jeopardise, you know, my situation at Quins. Like, I'm going to go play in England. It would help if I was English qualified as well. So I think now that I've left and I've done the English Sevens, it's you know, the chats can like die down. It's just sort of like very much focused on playing your Prem Rugby, your Prem Cups, everything like that, and obviously online with Scottish as well.
And the Scottish. So you played Sevens as well for England. How important? Because I know a lot of players actually, they start off in Sevens, or when they're young in 15s, they go and play Sevens. How important do you think that is for rugby players' development? Because obviously, I mean, it's helping you, and it's helped loads of others as well.
I absolutely love the Sevens. I think it doesn't get quite enough, not respect,
like coverage.
Coverage as it needs to, because for a start, the players that play there are unbelievable, not just from the English team.
Fit as well. Like,
unbelievably
super fit. Yeah.
Which was sort of the big show out when I turned up there, having been a 15s player my entire life. Like, I was about 10 kilograms heavier than everyone else, and they were all just rapid, shredded, like running rings around you. Yeah. And it's shown because boys that come through Sevens and then start to play 15s are tearing up. Like, we have Will Edwards, who is fly off for us. He's unbelievable player, like so skillful. Yeah. But then you have like Rory McConaughey. You got Corey Toole, who's just played in Super Rugby, and he was unbelievable. Like, these guys are coming across, Ches and Colby as well.
Yeah, obviously.
Like, these guys are coming across and tearing rugby up, and it just shows to show like those sort of individual skills you learn from Sevens, because it's such an exposing environment. Like, there's 7 people on the field. If you mess up, everyone knows it's your fault. Yeah. There's nowhere to hide, and you're going to be involved. Like, you're going to be making a tackle like every 3 phases, every 2 phases, you're going to be involved somehow.
You're going to be sprinting, I guess, a lot more as well.
And you're like forced to have to either, sink or swim kind of thing. It's like, if you don't get better, then you're not going to get picked.
So do you think, when you talk about the sink or swim thing, do you think it's good for young players mentally as well as physically? Because obviously if it's in like the last minute or something in sevens, and so you drop a ball, even if it goes backwards, and the onrushing players might just be quicker than you, like that kind of situation, like under pressure, like.
Yeah, I think, pressure makes diamonds, doesn't it? So I think if you can get through those sort of high pressure situations and, either just survive it or come out of it the other side, and you are better for it in the long run. And I had one at the Toulouse Sevens where we were playing Samoa in the quarterfinal. We were up, and I had to go up and take a kick off, and I was getting lifted. I went up, and the Samoan guy knocked the ball out of my hand. They picked the ball up and scored off it, and I just saw that. And all I could think was that was my fault because I didn't catch the kick off. And I woke up the next morning and I was fine. So I think it's one of those ones. It's like you realise being in those pressure situations that you're fine afterwards. Yeah, and it's like you can look back at it and think, I've been in these situations before. Even if I don't succeed or do well in it, I'm going to wake up the next morning and be completely fine. And so you can take that into your next games and stuff, and not feel the pressure so much, because there isn't really any pressure from anyone else. It's just pressure you put on yourself. Yeah, and I guess when you talk about this, coming back to Star as well, because you mentioned like Quins, they're quite expansive. I guess playing for sevens, that also helps you for Quins. Obviously, Quins, and you mentioned London Scottish, they've got like a partnership at the moment where you've played for them this season, and I think Cassius Cleves, he's played for them as well. So what's that like? That must feel pretty good, playing quite more regularly than you have previously. Yeah. In senior sides. So, and I was just wondering, like, what does the rugby, again, asking similar when I asked about how the Irish culture compares to the English one, what's it like playing in the Championship, where obviously there'll be smaller stadiums, obviously, no disrespect, but the other players might not be as good as a quality as the Premiership team. So what's that like? I mean, it's great. I think there's not that much of a difference. It's like, I think I definitely thought going into the champ as well. I think it's a lot of it's to do with how many resources they have. Obviously, how quick the speed of ball is and stuff like that. It's like small differences that means that the Prem teams and the champ teams are Prem and champ teams.
I guess one has to go up, don't they? Yeah. So have to be relatively.
So it's not as massive a difference. There's definitely a difference. Don't get me wrong. There's definitely a massive difference. Not massive. There's definitely a difference between the two teams. But Scottish and Quins have the same systems, because obviously it's a partnership now. We have Quins coaches that comes down. They deal with everything. You've got Joe Gray, who's ex-player from last year. He's now the head coach. We've just taken the Quins system and put it in Scottish and gone, let's go play some rugby. And it helps us as lone players, because we go out, we're not having to learn new systems, new plays, new calls. We just play in the system that we play when we train with the first team. So it helps, because quality of rugby is good. And then it's your system, so you're used to it.
I guess it helps both ways, because obviously you get the young talents, they're getting regular game time and stuff, and then obviously London Scottish, and they can benefit as well, because they'll have good good players as well playing for them. Normally when I end it, I'll ask the athlete where do you see yourself in 10 years time? But before I do, I'm going to ask you, obviously France 2023 this year, World Cup. Just generally out of interest, who do you think is going to win? See, to me, it's between France, Ireland, South Africa, New Zealand. Yeah. One of them four. To me, anyway.
I'd love to think Ireland are going to win it. Yeah. But to get over that quarterfinal curse and then win it, would be huge. Yeah. France have been unreal. Yeah. South Africa they're South Africa. They're always pretty decent. Yeah. I think out of the four, including New Zealand are probably the least likely to win it. I could fully eat my words.
I think this is probably one of the. I hope no New Zealand fans don't get angry with me, but I think this is obviously it's still an amazing team, but compared to other teams, it's not as good. I don't think anyway. I mean, they've got Bowden Barrett and he's class.
Well, there's who's in that group of death? Is it Scotland?
Scotland, Ireland, South Africa. I don't think Japan's in it. But I know those three. And I mean, that's
like given how Scotland are gone at the minute, if they can build that into the World Cup, that's going to actually be a very, very competitive group, which could see some upsets.
I mean, Ireland are playing Scotland in a couple of weeks, so yeah, that should be good. So last question. It's 1st of March, St. David's Day, for people in Wales. Obviously, you're 22 now. 10 years' time, 20, 33, you're 32. Where do you see yourself in 10 years' time? Where do you want your rugby career to be in 10 years' time?
Well, if I can dream big, I'll hopefully still be playing rugby, having played in a World Cup. Probably at 32, I'd love to be playing in France, earning the big bucks.
Oh, you really want to play in France? Is that something?
I'd love to go play like France, Japan. I sort of do all that.
Yeah.
Maybe 35. I'd say I'll be doing that. If I'm still good at 32, then I'll stay in England and play rugby there. But I think, ideally, be still playing.
Nice. Hayden, you've been an excellent guest. Thanks so much for coming and taking time out of your day for us.
Thanks for having me.
Great. You've been a great guest to talk to. Thank you very much.
Class, mate.